This is MJ. I'm an author, I'm an artist, I'm an analyzer. You can find all my work at mjmunoz.com. Welcome to Story Over Everything, episode 24, which will be aired June 23rd, 2023. This episode, I'm continuing to chronicle my journey as a writer. I'm going to be talking about partly, and this is because I don't know everything I'm going to be talking about yet, so for sure I'm going to be at least a little bit talking about some insights I've had into writing process and craft, including or based on a audiobook I bought. And I almost let myself get upsold on something, and I'm not saying I shouldn't have or that it was the wrong decision, but between listening to that, craft book or, the author blueprint from Joanna Penn last week and buying, which was free, and then buying this book, I bought the packaged up audiobook and an ebook, and I think it was only a 2-hour read or something like that, but it wasn't that much money for the pair of them, which was good. I feel a lot more inspired to keep pushing myself to write. I have already determined that I want to do this 10-minute goal of writing every day, or a goal of writing at least 10 minutes every day. And if I go beyond that 10, that's fine. This morning, I had to do something super early for work, and I got up in the middle of the night, and I wasn't able to go to sleep very easily, partly because of a situation that I had to deal with, and partly because of stupidity on my own part. I was foolish, and I got this new thing, and I was trying to configure it and get it all set up and ready to go to maximize my... I honestly think I will become more productive with this thing, but... it did slow me down in the middle of the night, and it wasted time, and it kept me up later, or it stole sleep from me, basically. Doing this, spending time on this stole sleep from me, which meant I was super tired, which meant I chose to wake up later than typical. The Monday and Sunday that I worked consecutively and not concisely, but in a dedicated fashion, I had gotten up early both those days, and I made sure I drew and wrote first thing in the morning. This day I did not. I also exercised those days first thing in the morning. Today I did not exercise. So, anyway, I kind of want to hone and get my body just right and properly dialed in to help my mind, because your mind is actually attached to your body. I don't know if you know that or not. So as I think about this more and more, I want to keep up with the writing every day a certain amount of time. However, beyond that, I want to, and the hope is that, the plan is that, as I'm exercising my writing muscles more consistently, 5-6 days a week, maybe 7, who knows, I will cultivate a discipline and basically turn myself into a spurt writer who's able to get out, who's able to write like a dwarf runs, being a natural sprinter and whatnot. But I don't know that that's possible. Or no, I do know that that's possible. I do think it is likely. However, and this is where the negativity was coming in, however, I do not think 10 minutes a day writing, no matter how fast I get, no matter what my words per second is, or whatever you want to call that, words per minute, I guess would be the right way to put it. I do not think that will be sufficient for me to continue to write books at a reasonable pace, especially because after I write them, I need to have them edited. I need to do all the different things that you do with a book before you get it printed. And since I'm self-publishing and things like that, I'm teaching myself a lot of those things, or hiring people out, or other things. And I need to get the best ROI I can. So that's interesting, and that's interesting to me. And the author that I got this from is M.L. I cannot remember his last name right now. Hold on. Okay, I got it. It's M.L. Ron. So if you listen to the last episode of Story Over Everything, you know that I'm in some ways facing a crisis where I don't feel like I have the fundamentals down. So I've been doing a lot of research. I've been doing a lot of listening to stuff and trying to figure out what I want my method to be and That way I can get it codified and then proceed to go back to that until I have it memorized, and even before I have it completely memorized, keep it in a document in a useful, friendly, simply displayed way, and maybe even have the base document for it, and then make copies off of that and work off of that and expound and expand, so that I can basically get myself to the point where I'm writing in this mechanistic way, which I still think can be creative and worthwhile. And if you don't think so, whatever, but if you want to give it a shot, I think it makes sense. But anyway, but something struck me. So this ML Ron book, it's called Be a Writing Machine, which I thought, well, that's the perfect book for me. That's exactly what I'd like to be a writing machine. And I think that's pretty great. So he just talks about like theory and process and what he thinks stops people from writing as much as they possibly could, and advice he has for you to push yourself to write more. And it's funny, he's a pantser, and one of the things he says is quit drafting, or not quit draft. Well, yes, quit drafting, do one draft, and also quit outlining. So that's not what I want to do. I guess I sort of kind of want to use the snowflake method and build up from a single sentence to like a larger treatment, and then make a skeleton or outline from that, and then develop that further. Anyway, further has to do with degree, farther has to do with distance, right? Anyway, so that's my plan. And anyway, as part of that strategy to figure out what I am doing and what my methodology will be as an author, I decided to buy this book and listen to his advice and what he has to say about being a writing machine. And because that's my goal, and I guess to sum up what I was saying, or to put a fine point on it, my goal is to be a writing machine. I think I'm going to spend, I was at the gas pump thinking about this. Right now, I'm only 3 days into writing every day, 10 minutes a day. I want to do that for a month, build and entrench that habit in myself. And then after that, I think I want to increase my time. Well, I want to increase my writing in one of two ways. I will I will continue to track my daily writing and write or put the word count in my log in the weekly roundup post that you can find on the website mjmunoz.com, and I will continue to do that. I will either increase my time or set a goal of a number of words I'd like to put out each day. Now, honestly, saying that out loud, what is my daily word count that I want to achieve? I don't like the sound of that. That doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel appealing. It doesn't feel like me. However, if I do want to be a writing machine, it's junk in, junk out, right? So, well, and that's kind of my point. If it's junk in, junk out, and I'm just looking for a word count each day, then is that setting me up for failure? Because will I be inflating my words? Will I be throwing in unnecessary things just to pad out the word count? Or will I actually write something meaningful in that time? And is the goal for me to write a certain amount of words, or is the goal for me to write a certain amount of words that I'm going to keep? Now, Ron speaks of writing in a tidy manner so that your writing is not sloppy and in need of excessive revision, so that you're not going in there and doing 2 and 3 drafts, or 4 even. And I can see a quality in that. I can see that being a very strong idea, a strong premise, and ideally your first draft would always be great. How do you form a good first draft? Is it by setting a word count for yourself and making sure you hit that every day? Or is it by setting a quality time writing interval or period for yourself and hitting that every day? I would think it's more that, but that's also why I'm not going to switch automatically to targeting a word count. I will make an adjustment at the end of, let's say, 30 days of writing like this, and see how I want to change things. Do I want to bump it up? Do I want to say, okay, I'm going to write 500 words a day, and maybe time myself and see, well, how long does it take to do 500 words? Sometimes it's 10 minutes, which would be awesome. Sometimes it's an hour, which would be okay, I guess. I did the math. I am interested in pulp novels, and he brought up this phrase, which I love. It's basically, if you want to manage it, you must measure it. Right? He actually said it differently, but that's basically a truth of this world. And I like that because it makes sense. Anything you want to measure the status of, you will be able to, with those metrics, develop a plan to manipulate it so that you get the kinds of results that you want. What are the results I want? Do I want to write 6 to 8 books a year? I don't know. I don't necessarily think so. Would that be good? Perhaps. A book a month is a crazy schedule. I devoured 9 books from an author within less than 2 months, because I had the means, motive, and opportunity. And would I be happy with a writer or a reader of mine doing that? Yes. I did see, while I enjoyed the books overall, these are Jeffrey A. Haskell's Arsenal series, Full Metal Superhero Arsenal. I did notice some weird patterns and some weird inconsistencies or little flaws, and I don't know if that's attributed to how quickly he wrote the books, or if it was an editing, an error in editing and how they were put together. They're still very good books. Like, I think the lowest I would rate any of them is like a 7 out of 10. But the highest, but that's because I'm really hyper focused on the content. I don't care if I don't really care about the typos and such. It's not professional, not as professional as it could be, but I didn't read it. I listened to them, so I experienced the story in a different way. And when I looked at Amazon reviews, there were people complaining about typos and whatnot. But as far as listening to the story, there were no issues in grammar or syntax or anything that I heard. There were just like weird bits where like things would be repeated in an odd way, or there would be a little bit of a jump in logic or a gap, almost as if there was, almost as if it was, point A, B, C, D, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, Q. Well, where is P in the other letter? What happened there? I don't exactly know, but that's not my problem. That's Haskell's problem, not mine. And I still enjoyed the stories. So it's not like, it gutted me or anything like that. But I'm thinking, how do I avoid those types of mistakes? I don't know, but I'm not even producing books at all at this point. So I'm not going to let that worry me. I'm just saying, I don't know for me, what the ideal cadence of releases of books is. And I guess that's something I'll figure out later. But I will tell you, between 150 and 200 words a day, over 10 minutes is not good enough for me. So after this month, I want to switch it up and see, will I go 20 minutes or will I go for a certain word count? And I was going to say, I looked it up, and if I want to create a pulp novel in, let's say, 40 hours of work writing, I would have to write 1,500 words an hour, which doesn't seem like a ridiculous amount if you divide that into blocks of 15-minute periods. 375 words every 15 minutes. I could write a pulp novel within 40 hours, but if I only wrote 15 minutes a day, and let's say I only wrote 5 days a week, that's 75 minutes, and 40 hours divided by 75 minutes equals, hold on, that doesn't work. What am I doing here? Let me think about this. 40 hours times 60 minutes is the number 240. If I divide that by 15 minutes, that's 160 days of writing. That's a third of a year, maybe? Minus 365, 205. So let's say 365 divided by 3 is 120 days. So it would take me over a third of a year to write a single pulp novel. That's not good enough for me. That's not what I want to do. I want to write pulp novels. Based on the things that I enjoy, that seems like my preferred genre, and that's what I want to write in. But Walter B. Gibson was writing 1 or, 2 60,000 word novels a month, and I'm not saying I want to get to that point, because that's, 24 books a year, which is crazy, but, I want to be somewhere closer to that. So maybe my goal would be to write maybe 6 books a year, which would be 1 every 2 months, and I have to figure out what that would mean for me to write every day, and then include editing, revision, and all that stuff too, to figure out how I could achieve that. So I guess to summarize that, my biggest takeaway from Ron is that by setting a goal for myself, I'll have something to strive towards. Even if I don't hit it, it's better than not. Because the way I'm operating right now, despite the fact that I'm not a pantser writer, I'm running my writing operation by the seat of my pants, and that doesn't make sense. It doesn't seem to be working for me because I haven't had success yet. I have not formed a business plan for myself. I have ideas, but they need to be formalized and set in stone, basically. So that's something I definitely want to do. And yeah, I like a lot of what Penn is doing with the self-hosting. She's got her own creativepenbooks.com. Check that out. That's her storefront where you can buy directly from her. I think that's great. I want to do that too. In fact, I bought ML Ron's book from him specifically on his website, Author Level Up, and which, by the way, if you get any sales from this, Ron, you want to toss me an affiliate, a couple bucks, I wouldn't mind. But anyway, there was an option to buy directly from him as opposed to Amazon, so I bought directly from him because I want to be paid directly from my customers, so therefore I want to be a customer who pays directly money to authors for stuff that I want from them. So anyway, that was really a cool experience. I see that he used HipPay. This is not an endorsement, it's just an observation. I've heard of HipPay before, and he used it, and it seemed like a pretty good system. It kind of seems like an alternative to BookFunnel because again, I'm a Joanna Pan listener, and I believe on Creative Pen she just had this week of June, whatever this is. Today's the 22nd, 21st, 22nd, one of those days. Anyway, she just had on Damon something from BookFunnel, and it sounds like the way that BookFunnel does things where they can get your books distributed to your people who sign up to your stuff, maybe even do a little bit of, that part I don't really know, because I paid through HipPay, and then HipPay sent me an email, and in that email there was my digital, or my ebook and my audiobook, and it was cool because there was a pop-up on the website of the desktop that I did it on originally, and they said, you want to download this here? And I elected to not. And it said, don't worry, or basically it said, don't worry, we emailed this to you too, so, you can go ahead and close this and go away, you'll get it in your inbox. I looked, sure enough, my phone indicated that I had something in my inbox. I swiped down and I saw, oh, okay, cool, this is them, this is from HipPay, and this is my book. And then a couple seconds later, I went ahead and I downloaded the audiobook on my phone, I downloaded the ebook on my phone. It was super easy, barely an inconvenience, and it was great. So I don't know if BookFunnel does all of that as well, but it's really cool that we're in a environment now, we're in a marketplace or ecosystem where you can get a system like that to do that for you. And Michael ML Ron put out videos on YouTube that I went to, and I checked them out. I liked his personality, I liked his approach, I liked the fact that he's written 40 books. That's amazing. Since, I can't remember what he said, maybe 2008 or something like that, he started writing seriously. I kind of think that's right. Anyway, doesn't matter, it's his story, not mine, but I'm just telling you, he's written 40 books in not a lot of time, and he's writing, I don't know, I think he said he averages 8 books a year now, and he thinks he's going to get faster than that. And I appreciate that, and I think that's cool. That's crazy inspiring. But regardless, he did what, in his video presentation, he, at the end, did a call to action, and he pitched, hey, I've got these, links to these courses, or, that other people have done that I've taken too, and you benefit from them. And, I wrote this book, I wrote this book, and you might want to check that out if you're interested in this. Since you clicked on this video, I know you're interested in this topic, and since you did that, I think you'll be interested in this book I wrote. And again, like I said earlier, the title of the book intrigued me, it caught my attention, and I thought, all right, I got to do this. And it was cool. I mentioned pulp authors earlier. At the end of the audiobook, he mentions books he recommends people read, and one of them was a book about writing pulp stories. I want to say Pulp Fiction, but I don't want to get messed up with the movie. And I think I might have to buy that. I might. We'll see. So I already found it in Amazon, and I'm looking forward to that. Looking forward to getting into that. But I know, and this is really cool. In one of his videos, he was like, "Look, I got advice for you, and I got to read from the School of Hard Knocks, and I'm going to tell you stuff that you need to hear. But, will you hear it? I don't know. That's up to you. And no matter how, I can't give you a magic bullet, because you can only employ, the magic bullet is you making yourself do the work and you being disciplined, which, that very much meshes with what I believe and where I'm at now in my life. I feel like just taking responsibility for everything I do, everything I fail to do, every mistake that happens, not in a, oh, I'm suffering and woe is me kind of way, but just like, I let that happen. I let that happen. I made that happen. I'm responsible. I shouldn't have done that, or I should have done this to make sure that things stayed in good standing, or whatever the situation is. So I'm very content with that feeling in life and the attitude in life. And yeah, he was right. I haven't published my books yet because of me. It's all my fault. It has nothing to do with anybody else, and I could have done it if I wanted to. And I'm tired of that being the case. I want to get myself to the point where I'm really doing this. So anyway, I'm going to wrap up the Grow Bug Tales project, and then I might take time off of... Yeah, I don't know how I'm going to do it. I was going to say I might take time off of my creative writing in order to give myself a little bit of... No, I think I will. I'll take a small break, less than a month, and in that month I will dedicate myself to honing my craft and figuring out this formula that I want for my... I don't know if I want to say mechanical writing or systemic writing. I'm going to come up with a cool name for it as part of the project, but basically I'm going to come up with the method first, then come up with a name for it afterwards, I think. And I don't want to be one of these project guys, but I think I'll definitely include on my website links for people, PDFs for people, where they can have their information so they can fill it out and have the kind of guide that I want. And the reason I'm making it is because it's the guide I want. And if other people like it, then that's great. And, I'll have it for them. So I'll have it for them, but more importantly, I'll have it for me too. So I'll be able to reference it very quickly and use it to great effect. And that's part of what I'm doing, and that's part of my strategy. And I want to, be salesy in the same way, which is, hey, you're here doing this for this reason, and I have, we have an overlapping interest, and I have a thing that you might be, benefited from by checking it out. Go here and do that, and hopefully expand my base. I don't want to attract authors necessarily who want advice and help, because again, I'm not that kind of person. I'm not that teacher, I don't think, or that's not my intention to be that. I want to be the bookseller, the superhero, tokusatsu, henshin hero type, superhero story selling guy. That's my goal. I want to write that stuff. And, I will do that. But again, with these children's stories that I'm cutting my teeth on, and this has been my plan all along, it's taking a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. I thought I would publish in 2022, but that did not happen. And now we're in the middle of 2023, and it hasn't happened yet, but I have the feeling, and I have every intention to make it happen this year. So, anyway, that's the author I want to be, and I'm figuring out how to work towards that, and I want to have concrete results and things that are clear and easy for me to read, for me to share, for me to say that this is who I am, this is where I am now, and I'll just keep plugging away at it and working towards that goal, making it happen, and putting up the proof here in Story Over Everything and all over mjmunoz.com as well. So I'm going to take a break and come back with either a conclusion or more thoughts and more concrete stuff. I want to follow up on something from last time. I found my Everything Creative Writing book, and I looked it over. I didn't read it specifically, but I found out, I think, what the most pertinent sections are going to be for me to look into, and I thought I remembered getting the format for the outline from that book. However, it seems like I did not, unless I need to look much more carefully at it in order to discover that, because in my first perusal of it just last week, I did not see it, which has led me to look for resources kind of all over the place. I kind of want to keep skimming Readsy for resources, because they have good stuff there. I think they have nice forms, and I've modified some of them myself, downloaded them, copy pasted, modified to make like my templates, because templates make sense to me. And anyway, I got something from them on the 3-act structure, and I started going through these videos by Lee McGeorge. Lee McGeorge is a indie horror author, and he wrote something called The Obsidian, which is a gothic romance book with a ghost train, which is pretty cool. And the ghost train is the Obsidian. And he's got this write a novel course on YouTube, and it's, I don't know, 26 videos long or something like that. And in it, he basically takes himself through the process of, well, he gives instruction and comes up with the idea for this book, and then I looked it up to see, well, this sounds like it would be a really cool book, or novella, first of all, because it's a short one. It's a novella. And I thought it'd be cool to see if he published this, and I would also like to read this if he published it, to see how good it is, to see whether or not I should, hitch myself to his wagon or not. And I did find it. It's on KPU. It's on Kindle Unlimited, whatever that's called. And it's a 2.5-hour read. I desperately tried to see if there was a audiobook version of it. If I want to do my Eevee app trick in order to get it to be turned into an audiobook for me, I would have to copy and paste. It doesn't work on the desktop. It works on the phone. So I don't know that it would be worthwhile to try to do it on the phone, because it might take me 2.5 hours to copy and paste it. Of course, then I could listen to it anytime I want, anywhere I want, while I'm doing other stuff. But could I just read it in snatches instead? I don't know. But he talked about the 8-point story structure, which I've heard of. I never really examined too much, although it's funny, it kind of shares some features with the 3-act structure as far as there being as far as I can remember, because there's a what do you call it? There's a status quo, then there's a trigger, which is the term I'm very familiar with as far as writing is concerned. Then things get more difficult. Eventually there's a climax, then you come down from that climax. But apparently in the 8-point story structure, it's climax, reversal, then, I don't know, wrap up, ending. I can't remember what they call it. I don't have it memorized yet, but it sounds like a really good method. And hearing him go through it, is he's basically, streaming. It's like stream of consciousness. He's just recording himself doing the stuff, and he, where he ends up writing for a while, he ends up doing fast forwarding, which is cool. But you can still see the passage of time there. It seems like a really neat, really concise way to go about it. I wouldn't say he uses the snowflake method. He kind of does like a brainstorm thing in the beginning of it, but he threw out ideas. It's a really cool thing. You should check it out. Lee McGeorge. I don't know what else. Like write your novel course or something like that is how you'll probably find it. I don't even know what the name of his YouTube channel. I just know that his name is Lee McGeorge. Oh shoot, it is McGeorge, right? Hold on. I'm pretty sure it's Lee McGeorge. Let's see. So, yes, it is Lee McGeorge. Anyway, but you'll be able to find it, and I can provide a link in the show notes as well, or in the blog post that I turn this into. So, yeah, it's a very interesting idea. I really appreciate that he documented his process like that, and I'm about halfway, halfway, 2/3 through, and it's really interesting to see how it's developing. I'm going to definitely finish the rest of the course, and I'm sure, I've already learned some stuff from it. I think I will continue to learn more, and I find it pretty compelling, and I'm kind of thinking like I was saying with the ML Ron's method too, I think I kind of want to combine some of these things together. Like, I think I want because I won't go into it, but McGeorge does this thing where he kind of like goes back and like fills in the gaps. Like he like brainstorms an idea and starts filling that out, but as he's kind of going through the process and like reiterating it for himself to more fully fill it out, he goes back and, okay, now I've got 6 characters. These are the people they are, and I'm just gonna give them a name and a brief description, and like characterize them and describe their character as well. So I guess he's saying characterizes how people view them, and their character is who they truly are underneath that when they're put to pressure or friction. So under normal circumstances, in their status quo, they seem this way because partly it's true, that's what's observable of them by other people. But then when the chips are down, how do they react? Well, they come out of that that characterization, and their true character is revealed because, as I've said before, conflict reveals character, right? So anyway, I don't know if I'm going to assemble like a bunch of maxims or whatever. They're going to help guide me through writing my stories, but I mean, it feels good. It makes sense. You should be able to have protocols and principles that you can rely on in order to generate story. That just makes sense to me. Anyway, so I like that, but I think I kind of want to start off like with the idea that I have. Maybe throw brainstorm type stuff out there for that, especially with like the pulpy things I want to write. It makes sense to bring together the diverse elements that I want for a particular story and then develop those. And I think though I want to do, put my ideas down and then say, okay, so I have my ideas now. Here is my 1-sentence summary of the story. And then from there, and I can use that for my blurb and other things going down the line, right? And then from there, I think I want to, maybe use the 8-point structure to kind of help me figure out what exactly is going on, to help me figure out, okay, who is my cast and what is the setting and what is the character and characterization of each of my cast members, so that I can have from the top down in my document from developing to writing the novel. And maybe I'll have the development document be one thing, like I said before, then a first draft, then a final manuscript type document. So 3 total, like I think I mentioned in the last story over everything. That seems to make sense to me, just to keep things organized. But then I'll be able to reference that in that document and see, okay, what is the characterization and what is the character, and then also what are the demographic qualities. What's the description of the physicality of the character? And I can just do a couple things there, and then that'll help guide me through. And then I think I'd like to add in there as well, what is the motivation, goal, and conflict for each character. And I think I would put that up in the top with their description. Like within the cast area, I'll have basically a cheat sheet or a condensed bio for the character, along with their or within their cast listing, or in the place where I list the cast members. I don't know why I'm struggling to say that more clearly, but that's the final thing I wanted to say about that. And then under that I can have, like I said, motivation, goal, conflict, and theme. And maybe the theme goes up top under the 1-sentence thing, and or maybe the theme is derived directly from the main character, the prospective character of their bio. Maybe it goes in their bio because I think I want to keep it separate. I think I'll do the ideas, and then I'll maybe throw those at the bottom of something, but keep it up in that document. Maybe that'll be like, my foundation is that, and I'll have that cast at the very bottom. And as I'm building the story, I can have at the pinnacle is the 1-sentence condensation of the 1-sentence condensed form of the story. Then I can have the blurb then I can have the theme defined, then I can have my cast, my setting, I'm not sure what else I need. Then after that, I guess I would have my story treatment that's a couple pages long, or you expand upon the 8 plot points or the 8 story points by, I think, doing 1 paragraph for each of them. I think that sounds right. Maybe 2 paragraphs for each of them, which, if that's 8 to 16 paragraphs, I would imagine that'd be a page and a half to 2 pages. And maybe in addition to the cast, because I'm writing these sci-fi superhero type stories, or for when I am, maybe I also need to have like a props section as well, and kind of treat it like a play or a movie or comic book or something. That would make sense. So anyway, I'm glad I made these notes. I was thinking about not doing it, but I listened to a document that I again made, and I listened to with Evie before I came back to the recording, and it got me thinking about the 8-point story thing, and I want to look at the 3-act structure documents that I have now, and then also look at the blending of you can harmonize apparently the 3-act structure with the 8-point story structure, and that seems like it might be the best thing to do, especially because supposedly the 8-point story structure might be more difficult to use as a full novel versus like a short story or novella. And apparently, according to this same resource, which I will name later and link to, the 3-act structure is better at helping you build out your middle so that you don't struggle with that. So it's kind of like if you blend the two together, the 8-point and 3-act, they help to compensate for each other's weaknesses, which I think is good, because then it more easily helps develop that structure. Basically, I think if that's true, that they harmonize with each other and fill in each other's weaknesses, then that means that I'm going to have an overall stronger, method that I'm working off of in order to get that to all work well. And then I think I can kind of incorporate what ML Ron is saying and try not to do multiple drafts, because if I have this, mini draft type thing, or no, if I have this like really robust outline, because again, I feel more comfortable with that, and it helps to direct me and tells me everything I need to know about my story, then once I have that down, I can just start filling those things in, and it seems to be logical to me. And again, once I've done this one time, the next time I do it, I can just keep iterating on it and changing it up until I get it so that it serves me as well as it needs to, or as well as it can, so that I have the best performance I can have with my writing. That's the plan anyway. So you'll have to go look at the show notes, show notes / blog entry for this episode of Story Over Everything to see the links at the bottom. But I found more links, more interesting information, more like, colder, clinical, simpler presentations of the information on the 8-point story arc, which I now am confident to say that's what it is. It's the 8-point story arc. And it can, relatively simply be used for creating just about any story. And I find that really interesting. Before, I found this latest document, which again will be linked at the bottom here. I was thinking about it, and I was thinking, is it possible to use the 8-point story arc, the 8-point arc for every scene or every chapter? And I realized that yes it is, or at least from my understanding, as I'm trying to wrap my head around this, it sure seems like you can. And part of why I feel so confident about that is because one of the sites that I've linked here, it mentions the fact that you can even make the single sentence of your story, which I don't know what you call that. The log line is something else, but I don't know what you call that one line summary of your story. That can be comprised of the 8-point arc, because it has all those elements. It's got the stasis and the trigger, it goes to the climax, the reversal, and finally the resolution. And I skipped a couple there because I don't have them all memorized yet. But that was super interesting to me, that the single sentence, you can use the 8-point arc to construct a sentence that has everything. So I don't know. Does that mean that the least amount of words you can have in one of those that fulfills that purpose would be like 9 words? I'm thinking, the or something like that. You wouldn't say man on mission of revenge. You'd say a man on a mission for revenge. Yada yada. A man loses his a man has the perfect life with his family until they are gunned down, caught in the crossfire between rival gangs. Now he seeks to get vengeance on the criminals who took his wife and son from him. Will he succeed in this mission, or will they kill him? And even if he does live, will he lose his soul? Something like that. I think that kind of fulfills everything. That's Frank Castle, by the way, or at least the movie version of Frank Castle, the first one, the good one. I didn't see the second one. I don't know if it's bad or not. But the Frank Castle Punisher movie from, I don't know, early 2000s or late, no, it would have been early 2000s. It was like post-Blade, and for sure post-Blade, and maybe post-Spider-Man 1, so maybe 2001 or 2002 it came out. Man, I love that movie. Anyway, John Travolta's in it. I think, I was going to say Kevin James. I can't remember the actor's name who plays Frank Castle, but anyway, it was a great movie. Anyway, but like that, basically, it was a kind of long sentence, I think, but it still fulfills more or less, going off the top of my head, not being able to look at it and think about each element by itself. But it was way more than 9 or 10 words. It was probably like a 40-word sentence, which I don't know if there's a conventional wisdom on how many words you should have as your maximum sentence length, but I don't really care. Anyway, so I like that, and I like that knowing this. I'm not saying the 8-point arc is the only way to write a story. I'm just saying I think it's a good way that appeals to me, and already, considering the fact that I had wanted to use this single sentence structure to expand and expand and expand my story, then it totally makes sense I can do that. And also the flexibility of the 8-point arc, meaning that you can have your chapters broken down in 8-point arcs as well. Or I don't know if it's chapters or scenes, and I don't know what the distinction is. How many scenes can you have in a chapter before it's too many and you need to move on? I love The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. Those chapters are too long. They're an hour long on average, I believe, which is unbelievable. Anyway. I mean, they're comprised of many, many scenes. So how many scenes? I don't know. Michael Crichton, I've read a fair number of his books, or I don't know, like a half dozen or something. And, Timeline, Jurassic Park 1 and 2, or Jurassic Park in the Lost World, and The Andromeda Strain. That was a cool book. I guess only 4 Crichton books. Maybe there was a 5th one in there somewhere, but no, it was just this 4. Never mind. But still, that's a handful. He writes very short chapters. It's very suspenseful, very pithy, very effective, I would say. Although he does let... I'm not going to talk about Ian Malcolm and his monologues, his morphine monologues. Maybe I should. Anyway, I'm getting distracted, but I'm really happy I found this 8-point story arc thing, because it seems to work. And this Lee McGeorge, who's I finished the course of the 21 videos that he had talking about structuring your novel, or writing your novel writing, that's what it's called. He says a couple times, and he doesn't explain, but he makes an allusion. He says, I think I'm going to use a mini arc here, and I think he's saying I'm going to use the 8-point arc structure for this scene or this chapter or this little concept, and it doesn't take up that much space. So it's a very flexible, very scalable device, tool. And I think the great thing about it, or the one thing to pay attention to, is that I guess the resolution for the 8-point arc, if you're going to be using it in a chapter, and every chapter, to go from chapter to chapter, you have to set it up so that your resolution changes the status quo and improves it or deepens it in some way, well, it's kind of like an open-ended thing. Like, maybe it's like, on the one hand, this is good, but this is bad. So, like, oh, I made 2 steps forward and 1 step back. Maybe that's what it needs to be in order to keep that momentum going and keep propelling the reader into the next chapter. Because I've heard that chapter timing, chapters should end not when events end, but when something else new is about to start. So, like, your protagonist knocks on a door, or hears a knock on the door, that could be the end of the chapter, because, well, naturally, the door needs to be opened, right? So, you might want to turn to the next page and see who's at the door, and, I mean, that statement works for either. The protagonist knocked, and they want to see who answers the door, or if nobody does, and also, if they're inside and the door's knocking, or gets knocked on, then they're either going to answer it or they're not, and you don't know who that person is necessarily, and who's coming to the door. So I think that's really interesting, and it kind of makes sense that there's this idea of the invisible question at the start of a story. I don't know if that it has to be in the first line or just on the first paragraph, for sure on the first page, but I mean, I think probably the first line is best. That you start with a statement or with information being given to or experienced by the reader that forms an invisible question in their mind, and it hooks them. I think just by that question, they are hooked and propelled to read through the rest of the story to see what it's like, or to see what happens. So that compels them. And I would think maybe your chapter endings, you're going to want to have an invisible question there too, which I think it's invisible because you're not stating the question, who could be at the door? What's on the other side of this wall that I hear knocking? That you say, you let the character experience it, and you let the audience or the reader observe this question, quandary, mystery, whatever, and you present it to them through, I guess, just through telling them or through showing them it, and then you allow them to ask the question. That way they're compelled to, they're hooked in, and they want to read the next thing and see what exactly happens. So anyway, and you don't have to do a false cliffhanger type thing, but if you're clever enough, I'm sure you can figure out a way to make it work. And the you in this case would be me, because I mean, not that I don't care about your writing, but I'm not trying to claim the authority to be an instructor and tell you how to write your stuff. I'm just telling you how I'm thinking about doing my stuff going forward. So yeah. It's very interesting. It's a very interesting process, and wow, I don't know what else to say. This is crazy. I feel like I'm learning, and I feel like so much new is happening that I almost feel embarrassed of the fact that I've been calling myself a writer for years and that I don't have some of these things down. But I mean, I don't know. I'm in repair. I'm not together, but I'm getting there, I guess you could say. To quote the bard of my time, that's not true. It's a John Mayer line, by the way. So anyway, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm quoting John Mayer. It's time for me to go. That's the rule. That's the rule. So I hope that you stick around, that you come back next time for more development of my writing. Actually, I think next week is going to be it's the Princess of the Goblin book chat. So the Princess of the Goblin Skimming Leaves episode. So I really love that book. I have a lot to say about it, and I simultaneously have a lot to say about it and not a lot to say about it. It sparks a lot of tangents. I already recorded the episode, so I'm just letting you know ahead of time. I already recorded the episode, and it sparks a lot of tangents, and it's just a very interesting book that's very provocative to me, and it's very meaningful or profound, even though it's a simple children's fantasy tale. And I think if you check it out yourself, which I strongly encourage you do, because it's a classic, yeah, I don't know that it's a recognized classic today, but it should be, and it is, and it's so fabulous. I think even if you're if you were a kid, or you are a kid now, you gotta listen to that book. That's all I'm gonna say. So anyway, come back for that, and then come back the week after that This is episode, 24, right? So that should be episode 25. So come back to 26 for more of my chronicling myself as a writer, as an author, as a guy who's trying to figure this all out. And I don't know what I'll have for you then, but I'm sure it'll be something new and different and interesting, and it'll definitely be me at a later stage from where I am right now. And I'll be somewhere moving along in my journey. So I invite you to join me there. And until next time, folks, be well. This is MJ signing out. I hope you enjoyed that. Go to mjmunoz.com to leave any questions, comments, or other feedback you might have. There you can find all of my analysis, art, and fiction. I cover books, tokusatsu, comic books, anime, and more. Look around. You're sure to find something else that you'll enjoy as well. This has been a Story Over Everything production.